Hey guys, and welcome to the first episode of the Epic Coconut Tree. I'm Oscar,
And
and
I'm a bong.
yeah, we're gonna talk about stuff like the average informed person. So the first thing we're gonna talk about today is the legalization of drugs, like the legalization of all drugs, really, not just yeah. So
Marijuana.
I think it's a pretty interesting issue, like, because I'll put up a link about recently there was a group called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition.
Yeah,
Um,
leap.
yeah, so what this group is trying to do is it's trying to say that law enforcement isn't really working, for hard drugs. Like, people are still doing it, and over however many years we've been fighting the war on drugs, it's just simply it's not getting any better. So is it a question of, are we doing something wrong? So I think it's a really good point. Like, with the recent legalization of marijuana, it was a hard drug, but in places like Amsterdam, you always hear about how it's legalized over there, and you don't hear about violent crimes and people shooting up AK-47s on the streets for marijuana, and yeah, it's a really interesting point. So I'm gonna post the link below to the video of the just an interview with the guy who's heading up this group. Check it out. But yeah, so Bon, what are your thoughts on legalization of hard drugs?
Hard drugs. Well, Uruguay recently legalized drugs, and Portugal's had it for a while. And things, they don't really go as most cynical people would expect it to. It's a bit like tobacco and alcohol. Just because you legalize it, it doesn't mean everyone's going to use it. And I think when you first legalize drugs, there's probably going to be some people who do use it. So you might have your initial spike, but over time, I don't think the drug usage is going to increase by that much. Because if people wanted drugs, they would get drugs regardless of how legal it was.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, one of the questions that the guy asked was that if drugs were legalized today, are you going to go out and do drugs, like, knowing the side effects? And I have to say, if drugs were legalized, I mean, it might increase the likelihood of me taking these drugs since it's so readily available. But I'm not going to go out and go, oh yeah, let's smoke some crack and do some heroin, because you know the inherent risk of
Yeah,
taking these things.
it's not like you're gonna open these floodgates. It's not like there's 10,000 people, banging on clinic doors and shit, waiting for like people to start offering heroin. It's not gonna be like when people sell iPads, when iPhone was released, how everyone was lining up and stuff. I don't think it'll be anything like that because there's so much social stigma to using drugs as well. Like you get fucked up teeth, and you get like
Oh yeah,
people
the
get
the health risks are
anorexic.
all there, I think.
Yeah,
But I think it's really interesting. Like, I think there'll be a lot of people, like, look at all your drug users, your chronic drug users, and let's say suddenly they had access to all these drugs. They'll literally just OD, because before it was a question of money. Like, oh, I don't have enough money, so I can't get these drugs. But if drugs were legalized and heroin was going for $5 a pop, I think a lot of people will OD and just kill themselves. But that's it's an unpopular opinion, but it might be good. You know.
yeah. Um, well, people who use drugs a lot, they probably are still using drugs because they know how to monitor how much drugs they're taking. If you think about it, someone who's been using drugs for a long time, they obviously know how not to OD. Otherwise, they'd be dead already. And I think a big part of ODing and stuff is people not knowing the purity of what they're getting, and maybe they're using shitty needles, like secondhand needles and stuff. So if you have like a clinic for heroin users and you make it nice and well lit, and you have people supervising the dosage, and of course the quality of your drugs is going to be really consistent. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
you
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, because you know, in my mind, when people shoot up these hard drugs, it's in a you know, it's in a dingy, broken down shack, you know, that you see in movies and whatnot. And, you know, I guess, you know, there'll be the people, party goers who shoot up in penthouses and whatnot and your celebrities and, but, you
but
know,
that's a minority. It's such a minority.
yeah, but it's think about it. If you were supervised, if there was a medical professional there to go, hey, look, you know, this is how you hook up the needle properly, and this is how much you need to get the high you want. I mean, yeah, you know, call me crazy, but I think you know it would work. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, you know, there is always going to be that risk of people, you know, getting fucked up, and you know, there's always going to be consequences to any system.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of the good stuff, but how about what were some of the negative arguments against legalizing drugs? Like, are they worried everyone's gonna become drug addicts and we're gonna be a drug addicted nation, or
I think for me, okay, so if drugs were to be legalized and why people would be against it, the first thing that comes to mind is that, oh my God, you know, the city is going to be like, you know, you think about those broken down ghettos where, you know, it's all gang related and, you know, people, it's all about drugs, you know, because drug generates a lot of money. And and
yeah,
and
but
that's yeah.
those places are so ghetto and gang run because drugs aren't legal. So
Yeah.
it's run by gangs and they're really violent over it. It's like just look at alcohol and tobacco again. I mean, that's probably the best example, or even coffee, since that's arguably a drug as well. It's like because it's so legal and there's a system for it and there's regulation and whatnot, it's much more orderly.
Mm,
It's not
yeah.
it's not run by gang violence. And because it is legal, your supply will be so steady, you won't have to worry so much about like fighting territory and stuff because it becomes like a steady income. But I think one of the things I would worry about is the addictive nature of drugs. Like drugs are so freaking addictive. I don't know if you can count on people to to control themselves. I think that'd be my biggest concern.
Yeah, when you think about it, just think about prescription drugs, okay? So think about painkillers and you know how people get addicted to painkillers. And I mean this is all derived from, you know, the same base material. It should be it's all in the opiates family. So, you know, it's all from the same stream except, you know, heroin is the good stuff, is the the
The
clinically
most,
developed good stuff.
yeah,
So, you know, you think about how much people are popping pills and addicted to this crap, and, you know, you know, yeah, I mean, these people would be, I don't know, it's hard to say. I mean, I think the general way things would run is that there's always going to be your people who's going to be addicted to you know, whether it be freaking, you know, a painkiller, you know, just a normal codeine or freaking heroin. Like if they're going to be in this addictive behavior, they're always going to be in this behavior.
yeah,
Like
yeah, but it's like I think a good example to use would be fast food. Like people are getting fat as fuck these days. People are getting so fat, and it's like they're eating all this. junk food, and because it's so readily available and they can't control themselves, they get huge. And it's like when when you smoke tobacco or when you drink, it's like, well, when you drink, you just go unconscious and you need to get your stomach pumped. And if you smoke too much, you just get a bad cough, like nothing too bad happens. But with like heroin and opium and stuff, like what happened in China with the opium wars back when
Mm,
England was given, it's like, yeah, their whole country just got
yeah.
stuck in these opium houses.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense because if you think about fast food, it's because it's so readily available. It's almost like if heroin was to be legalized because it is just the strongest stuff you can get, and freaking McDonald's was serving you a shot of heroin with your Big Mac. That's kind of what the worst case scenario, I guess. I mean, if these corporations are like, hey, there's so much money to be made. Why marijuana? That's the crappy stuff. Let's get real. Let's get heroin. Let's really market this goodness out there and be like, hey, are you having a tired day? Are you feeling shitty about your life? Man, come shoot up at your nearest McDonald's. Where we'll serve you a side of fries and have some Coke and get a Big Mac in there. You're gonna get these obese, drug addicts.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about that actually. What do you call them? Businesses whose primary business is something else, but decide, oh, because we can serve drugs on the side, we'll do it. It's like hair salons that serve coffee, for people who are waiting. Well, it's like, what if hairdressers start letting their clients shoot up heroin
If
before
you're
they get
just
a haircut?
and then you're getting a haircut and you're shooting up heroin and you're getting high. What happens if it was like LSD or something and you're freaking hallucinating? Yeah, I think there'll be
Yeah.
some point where the businesses will figure out what is the right amount of drugs to give to people to get the right amount of response in that they'll be able to keep coming back for more and yeah, it will just be crazy because if you just think about it, I mean, marijuana, I don't think the chemical itself is addictive. Well, I don't know, like maybe it is, but I think it's more the habit. It's like smoking. It's the addiction. I mean, nicotine is addictive, but I think the habit when a lot of people are trying to quit, it's more the fact that they're so used to having, like when they're doing nothing, they'll just pick up and light up a cigarette, or if they're stressed, the first thing they go to is have a cigarette. I mean,
Yeah,
if yeah, the first thing you're stressed, you shoot up some heroin. I mean, all your employees are just gonna be in the toilets, freaking getting high on heroin. I mean,
yeah,
how
well,
is business gonna run?
they'll be doing it at their desk because it's
Yeah,
legal.
think about it. If I go to the bank and I'm trying to get out some cash, and the guy at the counter's like, hold on a second, and snorts a line of coke whilst counting my bills. I think businesses will monitor this because I mean it's good for business in the terms that yeah, it's good if you can sell heroin out to the public, but it's not good for business if let's
Your
say
own,
that your
your
company
own
that is
employees.
producing the heroin, all the guys are just shooting up on heroin. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, I think it'd be like the case of professional kitchens where the chefs don't eat the food that they cook.
yeah, exactly. Because I mean, you know the risk. I mean, if, I'm sure the executives of Marlboro aren't exactly smoking like handing out freaking Marlboros at their conference meetings and stuff like that. They're
Yeah, I doubt they'd give their kids cigarettes for
yeah,
Christmas
because it's
or in
just
general.
you know what you're doing. You're fully aware, and so
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
they do.
So I think legalization of drugs is I mean, society is going to balance itself out. Like at the moment, I mean, if you look, I think it's a whole system that is messed up because of all the drugs, you're locking people up. you know, and or you know the jails of America are overfilled, and you know like it's the whole system is broken down. So I think legalization of drugs isn't going to exactly be a deal breaker. I mean, it'd be pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
like I think they should go with marijuana as a more legalized in a more like broader sense of the word, where it's not really controlled, and with stuff like say cocaine, heroin, it can be a more controlled legalization. Like you would not want to send people on opium or on crack, heroin. You don't want to just give them the substance and let them take it out and use it wherever.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, you'd want them to be in the clinic, or have a place like how we have bars to drink alcohol, maybe like heroin bars or whatever, for people to shoot up, where it's not like you wouldn't let people just shoot up heroin on the streets. I think that
yeah,
would be wrong. Yeah.
yeah. Can you imagine people driving, under the influence of heroin? I mean, road fatalities will go through the roof. But once again, this comes back to people have the choice whether or not to do heroin.
Mm.
I mean, if heroin was legalized and controlled, we're not talking about selling fucking heroin at your corner shop, or selling at a freaking street stand. You're talking about controlled. It's I mean, in a sense, you're just taking out, the middleman. You're taking out all these gangsters, and you're taking out all the violence that is associated with, and all the
Yeah,
negative
yeah.
stuff.
All the unnecessary jail lockups and the money that goes into like DEA funding and yeah,
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah. So I mean, I think legalization of drugs. I'd say, it's I'm kind of for it. I mean, could it be any worse than our current situation? I mean, I don't think so. If it is done properly, I think, yeah, I think it could work.
Yeah, I'd say go for a controlled legalization where it's legal, but just like tobacco and alcohol, you obviously have an age restriction. You're obviously not allowed to drive once you've had alcohol. Like there's people who are allowed to sell it, and yeah, like you want it to be controlled. Like you wouldn't want to sell it the same way
Yeah,
you're allowed to sell like hamburgers and fries.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
You want a controlled legalization.
Yeah. So, leave your comments below, and, let us know what you think about legalization of drugs. And yeah, we will ignore your comments.
Yeah, give us your troll, or you conservative people who want to keep drugs illegal. Leave
Yeah.
us your troll comments.